cutting Medicaid, cutting the school lunch program for summertime children. All these cuts are pending and about to affect the American people here in the United States. Something we're going to have to do as Black people that we've never done before, and that is to start paying attention. But we can't depend on what the news forecasters tell us. We can't depend on that because what they tell us is not exactly what's happening here in America. We have depended so much on what's going on in this country that we've taken for granted that everything's going to be all right. It's never going to be all right. Not in this day and time. We are going to have to pay attention to what the politicians are doing. We're going to have to pay attention to how we're going to have to combat the politicians. And we're going to have to not do it depending on CNN and Fox News and any other news broadcasting company, because they are misleading us and they are putting us in this hyper effective state of alertness that's not pertaining to necessarily our people. Every one Black person that's affected by what's coming down the pipe in America, 50 of them are affected. So don't get it twisted that we are the ones suffering from the removal of affirmative action. They're the ones who benefited from it anyway. So our input is to stay focused on what we are out here to do in America and to make a way. This is the Black News Network, the real voice of Black USA, broadcasting live every Sunday at 3:30 p.m. And you know as well as I know, this time-saving stuff just screw everybody up. So it screwed me up too. So we're back at 4:30, unfortunately, till 5:30 when we were supposed to be here at 3:30. So forgive me for my tardiness and me not paying attention to the daylight saving time stuff that we are the only country do in the world. Protection is what we need. And in order for us to do that, we're going to have to take care of our own people. Our children are going to suffer this summer. Yeah, but theirs are going to suffer more. But we still will have to do our due diligence to get ourselves together. We are the premier broadcasting network for Black America. We bring you the news according to our perspective, not according to CNN's, but according to BNN's and BINN, Black Information News Network. We're here to let you know what they're really talking about in Washington, D.C. Now, there have been several eliminations of rules that govern us. We don't own the rights to the music, but we do own the rights to what we say. And what I'm going to say today is some things that you and I both know will be not necessarily detrimental to America, but detrimental to some of our people. So without further ado, I want to bring in my co-host and friend, Mr. Claude Foster, who definitely is a scholar and a mentor to our people who need to know what's going on.
Well, I just like, good afternoon. Welcome to BNN 247, the show where we speak truth to power. And I'm your co-host, like Brother Bay said. I'm the co-host, Claude Foster. I'm down here in the eastern part of the state, down here in H-Town. Broadcasting live. So yes. Yeah, I've been on for about the last hour waiting on my host to join me.
Yeah, he got me, man, because I was late, well, an hour late to be exact. I thought I was early, but I'm late as I don't know what.
It's all good.
Okay, you ready, Claude? Today we're going to talk about why Trump can't hurt us. And I basically opened the show talking about the cutting of Medicaid. There are so many people right now out there concerned about the cutting of Medicaid, the fast track system that we feed children during the summer at our schools. We're concerned about the dismantling of the Department of Education, the school summer meal program, the value of the American citizenship that we have right now. All these things are on the table. 2 million government employees are going to be affected by what Trump is doing right now. So far, 10,000 of those 2 million have been laid off. And that includes some people from the Department of Veterans Affairs now. We're already struggling to get enough doctors and physicians and counselors in there to see us as veterans. And they're letting people go. They're letting people go without due process of law. It takes about 90 days legally for you to remove a government employee. But Elon Musk got his non-American ass in there relieving people overnight, saying if you don't respond to these 5 questions, you're out of here. And many people are out, especially in the Environmental Protection Agency, any agency that have laid a law down to the way Donald Trump and Elon Musk have been governing America. These people have been removed. The inspector generals have been removed. The Environmental Protection Agency, the Forestry Patrol, anybody that's protecting land in America or protecting the interests of the people have been removed from the government employee roles. Even HBCUs have been affected by the decisions that are being made in Washington, D.C. So our responsibility is to not allow them to change our trajectory on how we deal with what's happening here in America. They want us to be scared. They want us to run scared. They want us to be afraid. They want us to worry ourselves to death and not pay attention to what's really going on behind closed doors. These people are taking that money and putting it in their own damn pockets. And we know it, and they don't want us to act like we know it, but they're keeping us distracted by putting particular things on the news every single day. And we cannot continue to allow ourselves to be caught up in that type of situation. All these government employees being relieved, how are you going to do a relief or firing of a government employee without first identifying a shortcoming in your performance measures? 2, by placing that government employee on what they call a PIP, a performance improvement plan, and 3, giving that performance improvement plan at least a 30-day mark to that performance improvement, at least a 30-day mark to evaluate the firing of a government employee. So normally it takes about 90 days to relieve a person from federal employment. You can't do that overnight. But that's what's happening. Even though certain states have a right to work, when they have a right to work, they can right to fire too. But government employees fall on a different category because they fall in a different category. You are not going to be able to do that without due cause or due justice in relieving them. So you have heard my intro, and this here is about isolation, intimidation, and forcing you to bow down to somebody that ain't even a government employee, ain't even part of the federal network, Elon Musk. How can you allow Elon Musk to dictate what America will be able to do in the future for our people? Something is wrong here, but don't get it twisted. What Donald Trump is doing is what he said he was going to do the first term. He said he was going to drain the swamp, and that's exactly what he's doing.
But what are we gonna do about it, brother? Let me get your opinion and kind of let the audience know. I think a lot of people watch the. I don't know how, but whether or not a lot of black people watch the State of the Union address.
Yes,
And if you see Al Green
how do you think the effectiveness of what Al Green did in terms of addressing what we're talking about?
That was a good representation of what we need to do as Democrats. But you notice how they let him stand alone? That's exactly what Donald Trump wants. He wants isolation. They isolated Al Green and let him stood up there alone and raised the hell he raised and got kicked out of the address to the union address. They put him out, but he's the only one that got put out. But others got up and walked out, but they had no significance as Al Green did, because Al Green don't give a damn about you knowing who he is and what he represents, and he made it known at that State of the Union address. And all of the BS that Donald Trump spewed that day on that address got nothing to do with making America great again. It's got everything to do with making Trump great. That's all it does. I don't understand how we can be so naive to allow our senators and our congressmen and our House of Representative people to sit there and clap for the demise of a country. We run around talking about, oh, we're going to annex Ireland. We're going to make Canada the 51st state. It's all BS. It's all BS. We're hearing this stuff and we already know that it's not going to happen. We know this. So why are we believing in this one man and allowing him to do it? But see, what happened is he made all these promises to get elected, and he's going to take out the very people that think he went into that office for their behalf. Those are the people who are going to be hurt the most. The very people who elected this man. And those are the ones who are going home. There are people right now who he brought out of prison and put them on parole for that January 6, 2020 incident. And now they're being pulled over by the police for other incidents. And they're having shootouts with the police. And they're ending up dead, of course. But the fact of the matter is, these are criminals. They are hardened criminals because they went in there to do the time, and this president pardoned many of them. He didn't pardon all of them yet, but he pardoned many of those January 6 people that did that insurrection to Washington, D.C. Huh?
He pardoned all of them.
Okay. Oh, he did all of them.
Every one of them.
Okay.
Remember, his attorney general said she was going to look at each individual case individually, but she wound up pardoning all of them.
Wow, I didn't know she did them all, Claude. Keep talking to talk to me. I don't see your picture anywhere, but I can hear you.
From the Rudy to the Tootie.
Oh, you on the phone? I bet. Yeah, I can hear you on the phone. That's why we had that echo, because I still had you on the phone. Can you log back in and come back in on that, and I'll just hang up the phone? But I can hear you on the phone still.
Well, stay there. I'll just listen while I try to get my internet working again.
Okay. So some of those people are still hardened criminals. Now, the question is today, why Trump can't hurt us? And if we understand how we made it to where we are today through the tenacity, through the diligence, through the fortitude of our people, we understand that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. We understand that. And we know that because we are sanctioned by God to not allow these things to take us to a lesser level than what we are now. We have been on a trajectory going so fast. There is no other culture on the planet today that have made the advancements that we've made as Black people, that based on our circumstances. And we have been they have tried so hard to erase us from society. They have tried so hard to minimize the atrocities we went through during slavery by elevating things like the Holocaust, elevating other cultures that have migrated to America and became Americanized, they can't hurt us. These little things that they are doing in Washington, D.C., with those hundreds of executive orders that Donald Trump is signing, it's not going to affect us. Now, if you don't know it, an executive order only stands for 30 days, but it stands until Congress says otherwise. And if Congress doesn't, they have 30 days to say, we're not going to flow with this here executive order. And if they don't flow with it, they can rescind it. And so many orders have been rescinded already for the federal employees. They fired people, and then unofficially, they fired people outside of the spectrum of law and order, and then they had to bring them right back because they were wrong. But if they take somebody out and they don't come back, they got to pay that severance pay. That means that individual is going to get the rest of that year's salary that they supposed to get, plus X amount of years that the federal government has to promise them in order for them not to sue. Otherwise, they're going to be facing thousands of lawsuits from all these people. And I'm sure they're going to do a class action lawsuit on just about everything. All right, so now we should be good with audio and video, and it should be working fine. How about it?
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Beautiful, beautiful.
All right,
beautiful.
all right, all right.
We're here now, Claude. Go ahead. You got something?
No, I was just wondering about the strategy of Al Green kind of standing alone and singing "We Shall Overcome" in the world. Do you think that's a tactic that we need in 2025? I mean,
no, I didn't hear him singing.
Well, yeah, when they did their thing in the House, censored him. A few of his colleagues got together, they surrounded him, and they started singing "We Shall Overcome." I'm just wondering, is that 1960 tactic something we need in 2025?
Hell to the no. I'm so sick of that I ain't gonna want to call it a song that holds us back. But that's exactly what they want to hear. Something from 1960 in 2025. They want to hear us saying "We shall overcome." They want to hear us do these kind of things, but we are not. We're beyond that. We're so far beyond.
Well, he brought up one thing. He said that, and he's not congressman, by the way, so I need to be transparent. He brought up the fact that he wasn't a regular Democrat. He was a liberal Democrat, and the only reason he was a Democrat because that's the only option you got in this country. Now, you know, our friend talks a lot about starting another party because this current 10 Democrats voted to censor him. 10 of his colleagues voted to censor him. But when you look at what happened, a couple of years ago when President Biden, they screamed out and disrespected President Biden. Remember when that guy hollered out?
They said
that guy hollered out and told Obama, "You lie."
Yeah.
None of them were censored.
Yeah, they never went back and did anything to them.
And then one of the Republican congressmen called Al Green his cane a pimp stick.
During the session?
No, they interviewed her after the session, and he said he needed to be censored because he was up there with his pimp stick.
Ain't that sad?
But what I'm saying, man, that's our politics right now. I mean, all the stuff that we're talking about and all the issues that we're talking about. What strategies, what can be done, or what strategies can we tell our listeners going forward to change the course of direction that we're going in this country?
The one thing I wanted to do this show about today is to tell our listeners that under no circumstances should you allow CNN, NBC, Fox News, CBS, ABC to guide your decision making, because the news that they report is not the news that affects us.
Well, one of the things I wrote down, and I'm glad you brought that up, media, we should not allow media and narrative control creating and amplifying an independent media that tells Black stories like this show does. Because that's what the media does. They control the narrative. In fact, they was promoting you know, on one hand, I say, well, is it good? Another hand, is it bad? Al Green has been on every liberal TV show that exists, talking about his censure. But what is it doing?
It has no effect, seem like, right?
I mean, is it just to put him on the world stage and say, look, you got out there, you got censored, you know, now what's the Democrats going to do about it? We don't have an answer.
And I heard, I don't know the young lady name. She was on The View a few days ago, and they asked her, "What are the Democrats doing? Because you seem like you're the quiet puppy in the litter. You know, ain't nothing happening. There ain't nobody from the Democratic Party making any differences in what Donald Trump is doing."
But when the Republicans have the power, they use it.
Yeah.
For their agenda. The Democrats have been in a similar situation where we had the Senate, where we've had the House, because Kamala Harris was a tiebreaker in the Biden administration. So we had the House, the Senate, and the presidency, yet they had none of the legislation that benefits us got passed. The George Floyd Act.
Even when we had everything.
We had everything. We had all three branches of the government. Why?
I don't know how to answer that particular question, Claude.
I mean, we're blaming people with power, and they're using power to benefit themselves. But when we have power, we don't use it to benefit the constituents, the main constituents. See, I think the Democrats are in a dilemma. They say we're important, but we ain't that goddamn important.
You got a point there.
Obviously, we haven't been important since the founding of this country. When they passed the 14th Amendment, they said that they couldn't do it just for black folks. It would be political suicide.
Kamala Harris said,
and it's been political suicide from the 1800s all the way up until today.
Kamala Harris said the same thing. She said the same thing. She couldn't do anything just for black people, and that's been the demise. That was the demise of her by black folks. Well, nobody wanted to vote for her because they knew she had no intentions on doing a single thing for the benefit of black people.
And think about it, brother. If in 1965 we passed the 1965 Civil Rights Bill, and in that 65 Civil Rights Bill we said there can be no discrimination, and then in 2025 the Republicans say if there's no discrimination, you can't discriminate against white folks. Therefore, DEI is bad. And anything that discriminates against another class of people is bad. So they've taken something and twisted it, and the Democrats don't know how to untangle that knot.
You know, you're right. You know what I've always said, Claude? The only way we win is to use the laws that they've implemented against us.
But we don't know how.
For us. Because every law has a loophole.
But we don't know how to find it.
When
it comes to black people, they haven't figured out how to find it.
We can find it, but we don't know how to implement it. We don't know how to use it for our benefit. We don't know how to take a law and make it work for us. In other words, when we find something that's detrimental to us, our objective should be now is to scrutinize that entire document, word by word, sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, and make it find that loophole, that opening in that.
But you know what I think the problem is, brother?
What?
I think when the Democrats are in power, they forget about us, and they're there to line their own pockets.
Who are us, though? When you say us?
Well, specifically, I mean black people, but broadly speaking, I mean the working class, because that's what they lost. It ain't enough black folks standing alone to win the election. They got to have, but they lost that working class, man.
You gotta, in order to be in politics, you can't go in there thinking you're gonna be a good Christian, you're gonna be a good ethnic leader. You got to go in there ready to stomp somebody's head in the dirt, because the Republicans will do that every single time. Like don't say, throw them out of here, get them out of here.
But they're unified in that stomp, right? We're not unified when we stomp. We're fragmented all over the place.
Yeah, we only had one stomper during his address to union.
I mean, if black people had value, like they say we have value. That stump would be loud and clear on our behalf.
We have that value,
No,
and
we
we allow that. We have it, but we have it so hidden. We've been taught to play down adversity, play down that America likes that they don't like us.
That's true. That's
Well,
true.
we got black people right now. Every black person that say America can't stand black people, we got another black person saying America loves us and they treat us fairly. We got so many black people that's still screwed up in the head right now that we will not fight. We're waiting on that savior that does not exist in their culture.
Trump
They
just
know they know that savior doesn't exist, so they don't put their faith in that
Trump
culture.
just appointed a Justice Department that says he don't have to follow the Constitution or any judge if he don't want to follow him, and there ain't nothing anybody can do. These are people in the Justice Department. He just appointed a person over civil rights.
These people belong to him.
He just appointed a person over the Civil Rights Division that says racism, that you can't discriminate against white people because that's against the 1965 voting rights. I mean, a Civil Rights Act. These are the people that have twisted
the law. Yeah.
The law.
But look, the Civil Rights Act of 1965 was created to equalize the playing field. So now they're basically trying to, it was supposed to be for black people.
Oh, well.
They twisted it so much that none of it affects the people it was written for. That is the issue. When it doesn't affect the people, we allowed them to take it and cater it to their benefit. We don't allow them to, like you say, twist it into what they believe in, away from what it's intentionally meant to represent. It doesn't represent us anymore. Who benefited the most from the Civil Rights Act? Not black people. Who benefited the most from affirmative action? Not black people. All these things that were created to bring the people, descendants of slaves, up to a particular level did not benefit those people that were supposed to be brought up to a particular level. And this is where we go back to what I've said.
But it goes back to the beginning of time. When Lincoln freed the slaves in the district in Washington, D.C., right? In the district.
Mm-hmm.
When he passed that bill to free the slaves in the district, he also passed $1 million appropriation at that time. That was a lot of money to pay slave owners for their slaves.
Absolutely. But you know what? This is the kicker. Read the last line of the 14th Amendment. It says that the United States will not pay anybody for the liberation of slaves.
Right, but that was the 14th Amendment. This was before the 14th Amendment. He freed the slaves in the district about 2 or 3 years before the Civil War broke out.
Do you know there were only like 2,800 and some slaves paid for by the federal government?
Yeah, I don't know the number. I just know that there was.
Yeah, I did the research. The numbers are there. They only paid about 19, maybe 20 different slave owners for slaves.
Well, I think they got $300 a slave. But you know how much $300 was back in the 1800s?
Huh?
You know how much they pay? Now, what I read,
it was up to $100 per.
No, it was
slave.
$300.
$300.
It was up to $300.
But that's all for per slave.
You know how much $300 was in the 1800s?
But 300 times 1,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of money. But the point I'm getting at is,
but for 1 year, but they still had nobody to work the plantations.
You saying that how do we navigate this debacle? How
can we avoid getting hurt further? I'm saying that we can't be hurt by Trump. That's what I'm saying. I don't think we can be hurt by Trump. I don't think we can be hurt by these laws that they're coming out. We can't be hurt by the suspension of $19 million for our HBCUs. We cannot be hurt by that. But we have to do what you just said. We have to unify, and we're not unified. When you see one man get kicked out of the address to the union.
What was the Black Caucus at? What was the Black Caucus? Why wasn't he standing with him?
Why was only one person kicked out? Why the rest of them thought they could just get up and walk out, and that would be a significant enough sign?
But they didn't walk out collectively.
Huh?
What I'm saying, they didn't walk out collectively. The only person that really walked out, I think that was a couple.
Collectively. Why didn't they coordinate this before the meeting?
That's one of the questions that Black people need to ask the Democratic leaders. I mean, we need answers. Why is Al Green? Why was he standing alone?
This Democratic thing is a farce anyway. Democrat does not work for us.
They should censor the 10 Democrats that voted against voted for the censure. The 10 Democrats should pay a price.
And nobody's doing anything about that either.
Nope.
Everything that they have done is not being addressed by the Democrat. And let one little thing get overturned that Trump does, and here you come. What's that? That Schumer, Mark Schumer, shows up and act like that's conquered the world. Yeah. And they ain't done a damn thing to get it overturned. They overturned it themselves. The Republicans did, not the Democrats. But Mark Schumer gets up there and act like he did it and the Democratic effort made this happen. The Democratic effort ain't did nothing. Only thing they did was came on to national television and tried to tell the American people that they were effective in getting this overturned.
Well, one of the things, our brother is not on the call anymore, but one of the things, the first thing that I think that we got to do is have some kind of economic independence and group economics. We don't have that right now. We don't have economic independence, brother. That's on the top of the list.
Well, we've been saying that for since.
Well, I mean, you're beginning to see it. What's the pastor of New Birth Church? We're beginning to see it.
Claude, we do have people that are financially stable. We do have Black people that are financially independent. But the fact of the matter is they want to stay that way. And in order to stay that way, they can't associate themselves with the general aspect of Black people in America. So
that's a good point. I mean, they do have wealth, my brother, but is it being circulated within the Black community?
No, that's what I'm saying. You can't go and rally with the hood and stand with the hood and say we did A, B, and C, and D, because you're going to stand out like a sore thumb, and they're not going to trust you because of what happened to Bobby. Who is it? Bobby Seals, and who was the spy from the FBI that infiltrated the Black Panthers?
It was what's his name's bodyguard. I can't think of his name.
And his bodyguard. Now he was that close to the leader of the Black Panthers,
right?
And then he was an informant for the FBI. How can they infiltrate our people so easily and get somebody to turn? We got more Black people willing to give up being Black to be white, or to get what white people got, or to be on level with white people, then you can shake a stick at. We are not willing to sacrifice our welfare for the sake of our people. They got this down to a science. We can have a group of 100 Black men focused on one single thing, and all they have to do is pull a couple of those Black men and give them $200,000 or $300,000, and that's it. They'll ruin out, come in, and they'll spoil the whole damn party, because they will be telling the people on the other side every damn thing we do.
I mean, you've had a number of Black businesses. What kind of support did you get from the Black community?
Shit, you talking about my business?
Yeah,
I had a bookstore, and since you asked the question, I'm going to tell you, I had a bookstore, and unfortunately, I received more positive support from the white people in my community than I did the Black. And every time I dealt with Black on good faith efforts, for instance, allowing them to purchase things on credit and expecting them to pay me on time, man, I damn near had to kill some people to get my money back, or to get my money, even if they put in a special order, and I fronted the bill to buy the order, and then they come to pick up their special order, They don't want to pay for it. So they expecting me to give it to them just because it's a special order and I need to knock off something. Y'all crazy as hell. That's what I said what happened with my bookstore. Now with the bar, because I did not give this one brother a bucket of $5 ice, then this one brother was a millionaire, by the way. I did not give him a bucket of damn ice. He started to badmouth my business because I wouldn't give him a free bucket of ice. When he
So
said,
is it a psychological? I mean, how can we make sure that we do that? How do we get that economic independence and group economics with those kind of dynamics?
we got to drop this mentality that you get a bargain at every black business. Every black business, you're going to pay more for what you get. You're going to pay more because it costs more for them to put the damn business out there for you. Everything they pay for, they're paying more than their constituents paying for the exact same thing.
Now, black folks boycotting
their ice. This is what my nephew always say. Their ice, white folks' ice, is colder than black folks' ice. That's what he always tell me. So therefore, black people will buy the white man's ice because it's colder than the black man's ice.
Now, the pastor of New Birth Church in Atlanta has told black folks not to shop at Target. Are they shopping at Target?
Hell yeah, they're still in there. I'll say millions of black people are not shopping at Target because of this pastor's out of Georgia.
Right.
Quest.
He used to be with NWCP. Yeah.
People still go to Target just like it ain't nothing out there. But the thing is, we're saying it all online and we're saying it all in person or to next door neighbor, this, that, and that. But you don't see a single person standing outside of Target telling black people, don't shop here. Right. That's the difference. They don't mean it. They mean it with their words, but you ain't getting involved to stop it. You don't want to be seen out there.
Who should be out there? Should the NAACP be out? Who should be out there?
Well, we already know what the NAACP is.
But I mean, should they be out there?
NAACP with all my heart, but the bottom line is the NAACP will not support efforts that ain't making money for the NAACP. That's the bottom line. NAACP does not represent Black America. And let me
say this. Let me say this. Should it be in San Antonio, Texas, where I used to stay? I don't say whether I live there, but I used to stay there. They are the premier Black institution that represents Black people in San Antonio.
How?
Well, name another one. Name another institution that has that branding that people just automatically know what it is.
But see, the thing is, you realize why. Because the NAACP is a federally funded organization as well. And if the federal government didn't think that they were no threat, if they thought they were a threat, they'd be looking like the Black Panthers right now. But they're the only organization that have not been identified as a threat to the federal government. And how do you keep them that by not being a threat to the federal government? You keep them that way by allowing them to function as long as they don't say anything.
But isn't that part of the
you can't even go to the NAACP with a lawsuit against a major corporation. You can't go against a major corporation with the NAACP because they're not going to do it. They will not do it.
But
now,
let
the line be there, huh?
But aren't we talking about what's part? How can we ever get to where we need to get to if this is the way? If we
don't have representation.
If we got infrastructure out there, but we're not benefiting from that infrastructure. We got the NAACP, we got the Urban League. I hear what you're saying, but that's the infrastructure we got. We got the churches. So how do we make them better?
You can't make them better if they're afraid to get better. For instance, let me tell you, as an organization been around 100 years today, not this today, but as of 2025, they've been around 100 years. Why is it that you got the same amount of money in the bank that you had 55 years ago in the bank? And why is it every year you got to be broke at the end of the year? Why are you less? Why can you not be evolving to a level where you are not dependent on America to keep you from falling below poverty. You out there doing the same thing you were doing 100 years ago, 50 years ago, and you're expecting different results. You are not actively engaging your organization into procuring capital. You're engaging your organization into staying on the same level that you've been on for 100 years now. You ain't doing a damn thing to help our society. And that is where our problem lies. We think we can pray and we can get on our knees and we can ask God to do this for us, and it's going to change the way with a white man look at how we operate. They know that our heart and our faith are in the Lord, are in God, in our death, in our afterlife, but not in this life. We don't expect a damn thing in this life. We expect everything in the next, and we ain't gonna get shit in the next.
Where's all these black people for Trump that was for Trump during the campaign?
They still got their black ass, coon ass face up in the damn Senate, smiling and clapping and acting like they want to kiss his ass and clean his toes and shit.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that about, because one of the things that this show, I wrote this down. This show, we don't give handkerchief heads, Aunt Jemimas, head Negro in charge, and house Negroes the opportunity to speak.
You're right. But that we got thousands of churches in this.
But what I'm saying, how do we get
thousands of members with millions of members in these churches?
But you're
why do we have one movement by the church?
But the premise of your of this week's show is for us to talk about how can we get beyond Trump. Mm-hmm. We got to have some kind of unity, man. But Trump is hitting us. Trump is hitting us. Look at all these folks don't have. They're firing people like willy-nilly with no
consequence.
These people got lives, man. They got house payments. They got car payments. They got. It's going to affect us.
We're scared, huh? So do you think they answered them 5 questions? He sent out a email to all VA employees saying, "Answer these 5 questions."
Now I got a friend that believes that the VA with 400 and some thousand employees that you got too many people. I mean, you got people working from home. You got people in the bathtub when they're supposed to be working and all kind of. I mean,
yeah, you got people doing that, but that's been the nature of the beast, man. When you got an abundance of people, you got an abundance of work, but the work's still not getting done. You don't get the work no faster. It's like when they came up with drive-through, right? What did they say? You got to get back to work fast. Go through drive-through.
The city of Houston just did had this outside firm do an assessment of the city, and they found out that they just put in a hiring freeze because they found out that supervisors are only supervising 3 or less people.
Ridiculous. Why is it that you go on a job site, you see city employees, state employees, even federal employees on a job site, and you see 5 supervisors and 1 person working? You see that all the time. Yeah. Everywhere you go, you see 5 or 6 people standing around with a clipboard thinking they're important and shit, but you only see 1 or 2 people working.
Now, don't you think the public sees that though? Don't the public see that? That's why they're still supporting your boy?
People who doing it. I mean, they milking the system. So in a way, what Donald Trump is doing, he's doing what he said he was going to do, drain the swamp. So by cutting all these government employees might be a benefit. But the thing is, you're not rationally cutting these people. You're doing it. What your thought is the right thing, but your execution is effed up.
But what do you think his motive is? What do you think is to give tax breaks to the wealthy? I mean, what's behind
his motive?
He's hurting the people that he's hurting them poor people in Alabama and Mississippi and Georgia and
his motive is to give the Federal Reserve back to the people. The Federal Reserve is owned by the corporation, and by it being a corporation, they dictate where the money goes. So
I found it kind of I kind of find naive. I have never heard a president. I've been voting since 1971. I have never heard a president say. I have never heard a president say that we need to go to Fort Knox and see if the gold really there.
Because it ain't.
That's what Trump said.
Right.
They're going to Fort Knox to see if the gold is really in the Fort Knox.
There's no reason. There's no gold there. We're walking around with money every single day. When the news talk about money, what do you see? What clip do they show? The Federal Reserve print money, right? They show it every single time. There is no backing for that money being printed.
But it's at Fort Knox, though.
America is part of the corporation.
So you don't believe the gold is in Fort Knox?
No, I think it's empty. I think it's the Fort Knox is a symbol. All the gold is gone. They sold the gold to China. So if you looking for gold, don't go to Fort Knox because you ain't gonna get nothing.
But he said he's going there looking for it.
No, he want to go see if it's there, and he already know it's not there. He went there last time. When he was president, he know ain't no gold at Fort Knox. He know that America is living off of the military. The only reason America stands the power it is today is because of the military. That's why the defense contractors will always be at the top of the budget in America. Our defense budget is more than half of the countries on the planet.
It's 900 billion, almost $1 trillion.
That money, that's more money than most of our nation's GDP. They don't have that. They don't have that type of money to put into the defense budget. But we stand behind power.
We got more airplanes. We got more rockets. We got more ships. We got more people.
We got the most guns.
America.
If we don't have the most guns, we are not the number one power. So that's why we got the most guns, and we got the most accurate guns. We ain't got no good technology. We got all this where we supposed to have it. That's why.
Yeah, because we can be right there. We can be right there in Nevada in the desert and kill somebody anywhere in the world with them drones.
I worked for a particular unit when I was on active duty, and I was in what they call a platoon control central, and I broke codes for launches, and we had missiles that go into the stratosphere, go outside of the planet into the stratosphere, and then they come back down over a target, and they map they all the way down and land on a target around the world within 10 meters of the target. I mean, that's how powerful our missiles are. But then they so damn naive right now. They send a rocket to the moon, that NASA did last week, and the rocket made it all the way to the moon. And it get there, and what did it do? It falls over. Did you know that?
I thought that was Elon Musk launch.
Oh, it was. But the federal government funded it.
Right.
It landed on the moon and fell over. How dumb is that? I mean, you don't have the power that you think you have. You don't have the technology that you think you have. Here it is, 2025. You can't land a vessel on the moon, but you did it in the 60s. A damn lie. Have you seen that spaceship that they say went to the moon in the 1960s? No. It's in St. Louis, Missouri, at the Boeing Aerospace Museum. I went to that exact spaceship that they claimed they sent to the moon, and I'm looking at it, and it's thinner than corrugated tin that you can buy at Home Depot. It's thinner than that. It's aluminum that you can bend with your hand. That's how thin it is. And you probably could squeeze a man in there, maybe two, and you cannot bring that man through the stratosphere because the temperatures are too high. Everything in there burn up. That'll melt the metal and everything else. How you gonna bring something through this intense heat and this metal and it don't burn up? You can't. But they telling you that this is the vessel that went to the moon. And then you see all this footage showing where the lights falling out of the ceiling when they're trying to film the landing on the moon. You see a rat running across the flagpole or something. You see a rat running across the rail on the actual spaceship. A rat surviving on the moon. You can't how you see an explosion on the moon. You can't see any of that because there's no air. And the question is, you telling me how's the sun burning, with no oxygen? Can fire burn without oxygen? They tell you in science that you cannot start a fire without oxygen, but the sun ain't went out yet. So all these different things are questionable that we have been led to believe. But back to the core of our topic. Trump can't hurt us because we've been hurt so much. Our hurt level has been maxed out for 150 years. There's nothing else you can do to hurt us. You can try what you want.
Well, let me ask you a question. I hear what you're saying, but are the people representing us in Congress?
No,
Let me finish. Obviously, their hurt level is less because they're making $175,000 a year, each and every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't feel our pain.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you adequately represent someone if you can't feel their pain?
I don't see how a white person can represent.
I'm talking about black people now. I'm talking about black representatives.
No, but I'm saying you can't put a white person to represent a black community because he don't understand the black culture. Even though he said, well, I was raised up around black folks. I know black folks. I got a black friend. That don't make you qualified to represent black people. But you got
why would you keep
Congress represent black people? There are people that represent us all the time that don't have a clue about our concerns and our interests. But
no, they're not representing. No, I would.
Everybody on the ballot? You don't. Who tell me you know everybody you vote for?
No, but brother, if you are a black middle class person, you living in a white space, you're being represented. Not you as a black person with your black issues. You're being represented based on a certain socioeconomic standard of what they call middle class. That's you're not being represented as a black person. You're being represented as a middle class person. Black people have unique representative requirements and understandings.
You have to have a culture, a nationality to get represented.
Well, I'm not going to say you have to have a nationality, but most of the black representatives that represent black people represent majority black districts.
How are you going to get represented without a nationality in this country?
Well, you do have a nationality.
Huh?
What do you mean without a nationality?
How are you going to get represented without one?
You have one.
No, you don't.
You're Black American.
What's your nationality?
American. Black American. You have to qualify it. You're not just an American. You're a Black American, just like white American. And there are so many groups that
you don't have no nationality, brother. I don't know.
You're not representing a nationality. You're representing a people, right?
You are not people. You're not classified as a people. You're not even classified. As a black person, I use the term black loosely, African American loosely, because those terms don't exist.
Well, as of
international level,
you're a citizen. You're a citizen. You have citizenship.
I'm glad you brought that up because Trump did a executive order, ED 14173, ending illegal discrimination and restoring merit based.
Well, I tell you, they're twisting.
Well, that's right.
They're twisting the law. Look here, if you create a law, what did Dr. King say?
Oh, here it is. Let me just throw this out and then you go ahead, okay? I didn't write down the executive directive, but it says protecting, this is one of them, protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship. All right, now go ahead. That's the executive order he just wrote.
there's a saying, okay, if you create a law based on an injustice, right? That law is going to have unjust consequences. So if you create a law like the 65 Civil Rights Act or the Voting Rights Act, and if you say discrimination is illegal, so the fact that the fact that there was an injustice to begin with, then you have to create a law to deal with that injustice. And then somebody comes along and says, okay, if you say discrimination is illegal, then you can't discriminate against this white person over here just because this person is white. Or you can't discriminate against this person over here just because this person got a little bit more cash than you got. It's race-based discrimination, and what Trump and his cronies have come to have, and because you read about the law. The law is, like the law is what it said, what a person says it is. If you're driving down the street and you're driving 35 and the police comes behind you and say you was driving 36, he's the law, right? Until you can prove him wrong. He's the law. He writes you a ticket, you got to go to court and prove otherwise. But Trump is challenging all these laws and says, okay, go to court and prove me otherwise. And his lawyers got the kind of arguments like Bandy and these folks that buy into his agenda says, okay, the 65 Civil Rights Act say you can't discriminate based on color, or you can't discriminate based on a person's whatever.
Where does that affect us though? Where do we fit in on that? How do we get
until Trump came along? We fit in quite well.
Nobody challenged it
because we kept pushing it. Let me finish, brother. We kept pushing it. We took a law that tried to address the discrimination that black folks were experiencing, and you won't get no argument in the 60s what black folks was experiencing. But we've taken it to get to the GLPT. We've used it for all different kind of purposes other than his intended purposes. And so white folks are saying, wait a minute, enough is enough. That's how. So Trump say, I'm getting rid of DEI because they've said enough is enough. So what I'm saying is, once laws get on if a law gets on the book and it expands beyond its intended purposes, eventually people gonna get pissed off.
The law has never worked for us, though. The Civil Rights
Act. It was never for us.
Like I said,
the 15th Amendment, they said that they couldn't pass an amendment just for black folks because of the consequences. Well, anytime you open that door and say something like that, why do you think we're in the situation we're in now with immigration?
I'm just curious, Claude. How did the Civil Rights Act benefit us?
Well, it did. It got rid of just basically overt discrimination.
Remember, what?
You grew up in Mississippi. You couldn't go to the front of the cafeteria and eat.
You still can't.
That's pretty obvious. Yes, you can.
No, you can't in 2025.
You can go to any restaurant in Mississippi and go in the front door.
Brother, I'm telling you.
You can go to any theater in Mississippi. Ain't no separate entry. I've driven through Mississippi. Ain't no separate door when I go into McDonald's. Ain't no separate line. I don't have to go in the back of McDonald's.
Businesses that black people do not go in.
That may be businesses that black people go in, but there's no law that says you can't go in there.
Well, the law is if you go in there, you ain't going to be able to go in there tomorrow.
Okay, well, that's different than what the law says. The law says that there cannot be no barriers put in place to keep you from going in that front door.
The law says one thing, but the citizen law says another thing.
But brother, what I'm saying, anytime you expand the law, like what they've done with the Voting Rights Act, you're gonna piss some people off eventually. And then here comes along Trump and his 2025 cohorts. These are lawyers and stuff that have a different perspective. So they find the nuances in the law. They make their arguments. You got a Supreme Court that he put in place, and for the most part, they're going to side with him. Like John Roberts says. John Roberts said there's a black mayor in Selma. He said conditions are not the same as they were in 1965. Selma has a black mayor. So why do we need section 4A, which basically got rid of section 5? Why do we need section 5 of the Voting Rights Act anymore? So they got rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though black folks are still being discriminated against, being denied the right to vote. How you think all these laws in these states got on the book? How you think Texas and Mississippi passed all these voter restriction laws and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Because none of these laws have to go to Section 5 required them to send their provisions to the DC Circuit for them to review it before it became law, before they could do anything. They don't have to do that anymore. They can pass anything they want to.
It is so easy to manipulate any law, any law.
But
So,
brother, what I'm telling you though, brother, is if you take a law, if you like the 15th Amendment, eventually we was gonna get to this point. If the 15th Amendment had been for the intended people, which were black enslaved people, and didn't have all these other provisions, if they wasn't afraid to do something just for black people, we wouldn't be in the predicament we're in today.
well, so what else? What was the Emancipation Proclamation for? Just
Black people.
right?
Well, black people.
Mm-hmm.
It was supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
for black people.
So
Remember when Lincoln freed the slaves in Washington, in the District of Columbia, he was going to send them to some other country. They wasn't supposed to be staying here.
but that was part of the 13th Amendment with 20 sections. There's two 13th Amendments. Both ratified now. Both ratified.
Well, I got the one that
and the one with 2 sections. The one that we see every day is the one with 2 sections. But if you dig a little deeper, you will find the 13th Amendment with 20 sections. And the one with 20 sections talks about how America would pay your transportation to another country, motherland.
But let's
And
go.
the 13th Amendment with 20 sections also talks about how America is required, will give us land as black people. It said that in the 13th Amendment with 20 sections. All we have to do is use it. We don't use it.
Yeah, but you say all we got to do is use it. Who's got to use it? The politicians?
We got to use it. We got so many laws on the books right now that benefit us, but we have nobody willing to take that law and push it to the Supreme Court because we don't have.
So who should bear that burden to do that? Who should bear that burden to do that? An ordinary citizen can't bear that burden.
People. Well, that's what I'm saying. We have one. You said it earlier in the show. We don't have unity, and because we don't have unity, we don't have a group of people pulling together for the benefit of our culture. We don't have that because we don't have a culture. Because we don't have a culture because we don't have a nationality. And
how many NAACP black?
American,
How many
we're niggers, we're colored, we're coons, we're Indian, we're everything but a group of people with a nationality. None of those words I just mentioned equates to nationality. None of them. We're Black American ain't a nationality. African American ain't a nationality. All these are given names. Nationality comes from core culture.
Well, white is not a nationality either. I mean, white is not a nationality either.
Well, they don't see the same rules for you and I are not the same rules for them. That's why they come up with black codes, Jim Crow laws, and they are enforced as if they are national laws. Everywhere you go in the country, Jim Crow laws and black codes are enforced still to this day. You cannot get around a country that has a core built based on race, and the core of this country is built based on race. Everything that's happening here is based on race, and in order for us to survive in a country that's based on race, we got to do two things. One, we got to establish a nationality, which we have not done, and two, we got to find the loophole in the black codes, in the affirmative action, in the Civil Rights Act of 1965. There are loopholes there, and we're not using those loopholes, and we're not using them because we don't put the focus in, and we don't want to put the focus in. We would much rather be accepted by white people than to.
But wait a minute. Let me ask you this though. So you said we don't use the loophole, but we just had we just had 4 years of Democratic control.
That's the problem.
So they didn't use the loopholes.
Democratic control don't mean that they're representing us.
Well, now
they're representing themselves.
Now wait a minute. Now
for us,
Biden did use some loopholes. The Supreme Court said you can't just cancel school debt, but he did it anyway. So they did use a loophole.
Okay, he used some loopholes. I ain't gonna do that. But you got plenty more. You got hundreds, just like the Republican now. They're capitalizing on all the loopholes. Everything that they can pull out of a loophole, they pulling it out.
But something I did not know.
Something, and we give up. We stop. In other words, it's like you win one race and you stop training. That's
look here. Why didn't the NAACP or the Urban League tell us this? I didn't know Target had 20. Listen to this. I didn't know Target had 23 locations on historically white college campuses and none on black college campuses. How come we just didn't know that?
I didn't either. I didn't know that.
23 on white institutions, white colleges.
Which means
none on black colleges.
Break that down so it's to layman's terms so I can understand what you're saying.
What I'm saying, the brand Target has 23 locations on historically white institutions.
Which means
they got stores on those campuses selling merchandise. Like stuff for the dorm rooms, that kind of. I'm sure it's a specific type of merchandise.
They don't have any on black university. Well,
how come we didn't know that?
Considered a HBCU, right?
Historically black college or university, HBCU, zero.
So, but yet they're cutting the $19 million from to HBCUs that was usually provided by the.
But why didn't we know that they didn't have no? Who's minding the economic store for us?
That's the only thing we don't know. There's 101 different things that they do for white people.
Now you know why Target sponsors NAACP banquets around the country.
One a year.
Why the CBC thing? Why you think? Why don't we hear this stuff? Why don't we know this?
Because we didn't write the law. We don't know.
Why did we just find this out? In the law. Why did we just find this out when they challenging?
We have a political action committee, but we're not doing what our job is. Our job is to look out for us. Ain't nobody looking out for us.
But Brother Bay, you say you're an informed man. You said you didn't know that.
I don't know everything. I mean, just like you can come up with something every day that I don't know, and I can come up with something every day that you may not know. So there are so many hundreds of thousands of things that we learn every day. That's the purpose of study. That's the purpose of research. That's why we do all this stuff.
Hold on a second.
Inform ourselves on what we can learn or know about this country. They hide this information in plain sight. We can look in books and we can find a little bit about it in this book, and then they're not going to tell us the whole story. It's up to us to put this book together and do the research, put that book together and do the research, and pull it all together and decide what is this saying to us. We don't do this. We touch things barely on the surface, and we find a gem barely on the surface, and we run that damn gem all the way to the finish line, and we pat ourselves on the back like we did something. We win a basic election, and we pat ourselves on the back like we made it. We make $100,000, we give up. We no longer are considering ourselves black or African American or more. We're considering ourselves white because we have done what we needed to do in America, and that is get our stratification level up to a level where they can accept us. We're still seeking acceptance as a people. If you take everybody in America black, so-called black, that make over $100,000, and put them together, or they are all going to, not all, maybe 80% are going to still consider themselves not concerned with the struggle of Black people. Because
Listen to this, Brother Bay. Currently, Target operates 23 small format stores on college campuses in 13 states, and 10, including 10 locations open this year.
And you think that's all?
Okay, this is what. They got the University of Florida, Florida State University, UT Austin.
Go to those universities too.
Huh?
Black people go to those universities.
No, we ain't talking about Black people everywhere. What I'm saying is they don't have any on historically Black colleges.
Well, that's corporate America. They don't have to have them on Black universities.
But why they got them on white universities?
Huh? I know they got white ones, but they don't have to have them on Black ones. Who made that decision that if they give the white school one, they give it to the Black one? Now, in my hometown where I went to high school, there are 2 high schools, one white high school, one Black high school, and we still do 2 separate proms. We still have 2 separate football teams and play football in 2 separate leagues.
Here's the reason why. Don't Black parents that send their kids to Black colleges and universities shop at Target?
Some do, yeah.
We're consumers.
Of course we are.
So you telling me at not one Black college, all them Black colleges in Atlanta, not one of them, Target didn't consider not one of them?
They don't have to.
Of all the historically Black colleges?
Consider one. They don't have to. How can they by them putting a Target in a historically white university, that don't hurt us. How can that hurt us? It ain't doing something for us. What if Kmart or Walmart put only stores or little outlets in Black and HBCUs and not put them in white universities? What would that do? Does that make a difference? It doesn't make a difference.
Well, the only reason I bring that up is because Target did away with their DEI program.
Yeah,
their commitment, their financial commitment. So that's why I bring that up.
But not only Target did that, but the federal government did it too. So what's the difference? The federal government represents us all. Target is just one company that said we're no longer going to honor the 34 vendors that have product in our stores, and we're going to cancel all their orders. Okay, it happened. What makes you think? Why don't you cancel?
Target's at MIT and Harvard.
Okay. What's your point?
How come they're not at Howard?
What's the point? I mean, you might find a Walmart, a Dollar Tree anywhere. You might find it in historically Black neighborhoods.
Ain't no Dollar Tree on no college campus.
Neighborhood. You're not going to put Walmart in that neighborhood. It's no.
So wait. So what are you saying?
Target in white universities that you got to put them in Black. There's no law that say that.
No, there's no law.
Tells you what's Black. There's no law that say because you have Johnson & Johnson product in Black communities that you have to have a Johnson & Johnson product in a white community. Corporations have the right to put their business wherever the hell they want to. And if that's where they chose to put it, that's fine. But we we don't care about that, but we should. Like you're bringing it to our attention. We should be in tune with these companies like that, but we're not.
Because I'm not necessarily saying that the individual. I'm not saying that the individual
difference. Where Walmart get 90% of his product from?
No, brother, wait, listen to what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the everyday citizen got to be attuned to this kind of imbalance in society. And I know what you're saying about corporations. America is a corporation. Slavery was part of a corporate entity. So what I'm saying is it ain't a question of they can do it and only do it to benefit white institutions. I'm saying that we have organizations and monitoring agencies that should be informing us about these kind of disparities within. Yes, we do. You got That's what we belong to a civil rights consortium of all the civil rights organizations.
What's the
We
purpose?
belong to a national NAACP. We got a national urban league.
What are
We
they?
got all these institutions
They're not
that are
telling us.
supposed to be dealing.
What
That
are
are
they?
supposed to be dealing with these kind of unequal issues.
But they're not
And
telling.
informing black people so that the consumer, so that you're not taking your black butt into Target every day, supporting an institution that don't even support the school that your daughter goes to.
So you telling me that we should be standing in front of Target saying no?
Now, I'm not saying that we should be standing in front of Target, but I'm saying, why do you think Target had a DEI program?
Take it all the
Because,
way to the Montgomery bus boycott.
but why do you think Target was spending all this money on
Because
diversity, equity, and inclusion?
dollars they were getting from black people, and now they realize that the dollars they get from black people don't make them or break them. That's why.
Well,
at one point they thought it meant. All right, your time is up. I see you counting down on them fingers.
oh
So,
yeah, my daughter's here. I was supposed to be taking her driving earlier.
she ready to go?
She ready to go. Yeah, but
All right.
what I'm saying, my brother, is
Mm.
it's just like this whole thing about political power. Instead of relying on symbolic gestures, demand policies and systemic changes that directly benefit black people and their communities. So was Al Green's position, was that just a symbolic gesture?
That's all.
What did it do? He can't even get all the Democrats to stand with him.
It made no difference.
And then why didn't the black caucus go down there and stand with him when he was being censored? They all Democrats. They all got the same.
Hakeem Jeffries ain't stood up and said anything.
No, why did he stand with him and say, I disagree with this censorship?
Yeah. Nobody's going to go against the president because they know what happens when they do. The rest of the white folks going to blackball them. That's why when black people get money, they don't want to go against the grain because they know if a white person stands against them, that they're going to eventually fall. They're going to lose that money. They're going to lose that job. And they will sacrifice their own siblings or children to stay where they are on that level.
Is Trump smarter than all the Democrats?
No, Trump ain't smart at all. I don't think.
So how's he doing all this stuff?
Because
See, Obama laid now listen to this. Obama laid the platform, the avenue that Dodge is operating. Obama set that up, the administration. So what I'm saying is these folks are taking advantage of what's on the books. They didn't create nothing new. They just got some folks that went in there and said, well, here's a hole we can go through. Here's a hole we can go through.
You talking loopholes.
Well, okay. It's like the Asians filing reverse discrimination lawsuits, basically saying that they're being discriminated against. And they're using the civil rights laws. White women are using the civil rights laws. White folks are saying all these people were hired. They weren't hired based on merit. They was hired on the basis of the color of their skin. Now, come on, man.
Let me say this, and then I'm gonna get your closing statement. Your credit score, all of our credit scores are ran by these three corporations. They're agencies, not of the federal government. There are three corporations: Trade Union, the other two I don't remember. But you can dispute a letter. You can dispute something on your credit score, and it could be your stuff on my credit score. But in order for you to get it off, you got to submit a dispute. So if nobody ever submits that dispute, they can maintain your credit score at whatever level they want to until you stand up and say something. The same thing about America. Until we stand up and say something about the way they govern who we are and what we are, we're going to always be held at the lowest score possible.
Well, let me throw this at you. Let me throw this at you. You go rent an apartment, right? Most apartments require you to have three times the income of what the month. Say the monthly rent is $2,000.
Yeah.
They wanted you to have $6,000. Be earning $6,000 a month. Is that fair?
No. You just look. That's not fair, but it's the way they do it. But the only way you change that is you find the problem and you identify it and say, this is not fair to me. I want this change. And
But why? Who should find the problem?
the individual. It's up to the individual or individual culture, individual person,
But not the
city.
politician.
If
So
a city is not receiving a certain amount of money from the federal government, but the other city is, it's up to that city to make that change where they get what's theirs. For instance, I was getting paid $10,000 less than a night supervisor that was white with 3 employees, and I had 30. So in order for me to even the score or better the score, I had to make the call. I had to take it to my bosses. If I didn't say a thing, he would have kept getting that $10,000 more than me. And every time I got a raise, he'd get one. But he'd always
at least you had the temerity to
if I had never said anything, I'd have never got my money.
right. Most, but I know black people that would sit there and just be happy that they had a job.
Yeah. I know secretaries for 20, 30 years, and they barely making $12, $13 an hour, but they happy with that. But the white person coming there 20 years younger than them start 3 times their salary in the same position. And they don't care because they made their money. They're making their $9, $10 an hour. I know people died 70 years old making no more than $9 an hour at 70. And no Social Security, no nothing, no benefits. I'm saying in America, if we don't stand up as a whole, we lose as a whole. Because if you look at it from an individual level on a credit score mentality, if I don't change what's on my credit score, or if I let it stay on there, then that's my fault. Then I can't. Then it ain't the white man's fault. It's my fault. They put it on there to keep me at a certain level. But if I don't get it off of there to put me at another level, then it's gonna stay on there to keep me where they want me at. So same thing with these laws that are about black people and white people. If we don't change as a whole to move ourselves out of a category, then we're going to be in the same position 100 years from now. And that category is not having a nationality. When you let them name you black and you don't do nothing about it, then it ain't their fault, it's yours. When they name you African American and you don't do nothing about it, it ain't their fault, it's yours. They name you colored and you don't do nothing about it. And this is on the books. Colored was named by William Plucker. He in 1942, he made that an official race in America, colored. You allow that to happen. If we don't change it, that's the only record they got of us, by the way. African American and black is not an official nationality. So we got to do something about it. So with that, Mr. Claude, go ahead and give me your closing statement why Trump can't hurt us and anything else you might like to add.
Well, I would just like to say that navigating what Trump has done requires a combination of strategic action, community solidarity, which primarily what we've been talking about on this show, and leveraging resources in ways that create real economic and social power. And we don't have none of that. We don't have no strategic plan. Not that black folks can use collectively. We don't have no community solidarity, unless you know of some community solidarity that I'm not aware of. And we're not leveraging our resources in ways that create economic power. And until we do those 3 things, I think Trump's going to continue to do what he does. And so I would ask our listeners and encourage our listeners to call in on our next show. I think we need to continue this conversation because we haven't talked about the politics and the media and collective action or any of these other things that we can do to address what this Trump administration going to pull on us over the next 4 years. So having said that, I'm not discouraged. I think our institutions continually fail us. I think the fact that we support the types of businesses that are detrimental to our own welfare tells you that there's a problem. When our spokespersons that we depend on have an alternative agenda and it ain't black folks, we have a problem. When our politicians that represent people that look like us and that they are part of us and they don't have any political clout to do anything, they won't even stand with one of their own. And then we talk about how we can help 14 million others. I think these core issues got to be addressed. So I look forward to future shows, and I hope people watch this show and call in or send us texts on ideas that we can put out there for the masses of people. Because brother, this ain't. We thought 1960 was bad. I mean, Texas. The reason why Texas won't expand Medicare, they were supposed to get $100 million to expand Medicare, but they don't want to pay the 10%. The government was going to give them $100 million to expand it for poor folks in Texas, but Texas don't want to spend 10% of its money to expand Medicare. And yet our black elected officials, you ain't heard that. Now Al Green talked about that. But why don't they use that to mobilize people instead of talking about they're coming to take your vote away? If they coming to take our vote away in 2025, then I agree with everything you've been saying. And so I'll end with that. I just think that we gotta do those three things, man. And I'll say them again. We gotta, and I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget them. But we gotta
community solidarity, leverage power and resources, and the power.
strategic action, community and solidarity, and leveraging resources that create real economic and economic justice. Because, like you say, this is a corporation, and we don't own we don't own any of the corporation.
We don't have any stock.
We don't have no. We're not a major player.
Either. We don't.
You keep bringing up the citizenship thing. You keep bringing that up too.
Yep, I do.
We're not full citizens yet, despite what the 14th Amendment said.
We have it as a privilege.
Yeah, it took a law. Is there a law on the books giving white folks citizenship?
We can't keep thinking we can be judged just like they are.
But I mean, is there a law on the books giving white folks citizenship?
There's a big difference. There's no comparison when it comes to us and them. We're not on that level where, and I'm not saying
there are different classes of citizenship.
There are 5 different classes of American citizenship, and I don't have them for review right now. I'll bring them up next week.
Yeah, bring them. Let's do this week. Continue this topic. I think it's
okay.
Critical, and if we can give the public, we can give our listeners some information to help fight this next 4 years. I mean, we need all hands on deck.
All right. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You've heard from Mr. Claude Foster, our co-host for the Black News Network. We want to give him a rousing round of applause and tell him thank you for being on our show. We really appreciate him and what he brings to the show. So again, thank you, Mr. Claude, and have a great day and enjoy your drive on those treacherous streets out there in Houston.
I'm going to go do it now.
All right. Take care.
All right.
All right, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We've talked about quite a few things, especially why Trump it doesn't affect us, the Trumpism things that they do. We can listen to the news every day, but the biggest problem we can encounter right now is focusing on what's happening on the news. And that news is not designed to help us through the day. It's designed to create doubt, to create worry, to create afraid, us being afraid. There's a big push out there by this stuff going on with the Trumpisms And what they do is they want us to be afraid. They're talking about eliminating the Head Start program. And many of us have children that are involved in the Head Start program. And we're worried. That's what they want us to do, is to be worried about that. They're talking about eliminating the school lunch program. Many of us depend on the school lunch program. Oh, we'll run around. What are we going to do when this is over? Don't worry. We've been able to survive some things much worse than that. So all we have to do as Americans, Black Americans, is to stop fighting each other and to start supporting each other. And that don't necessarily just mean support Black business. It ain't about Black business. I mean, I love Black business thriving in America, but I love Black people thriving in America better. We have to pull together and start doing something as one. As my brother Claude just talked about, community solidarity is telling me that you are going to kick that gas station out of your community when it's owned by an Arab. That's what that means. I don't give a damn how you look at it, how you cut it, how you dice it. You got to get these people in your community that don't look like you out of your community, because they're only taking your dollars and exporting them outside of your community. Some of these places have been in your community over 20, 30, 40 years, even longer, and we've been pouring money into these places. And if we weren't pouring that money into these places, they would not be there. But they're there because they know you are going to spend your money there, because you don't believe that America is as racist as it is. Even Black people will stand up and say America is not a racist country. Um, Leverage our power and our resources. We got over $11 trillion a year put into the economy. That's a lot of dang more money. If we don't start to take some of this money away from some of these corporations like Target, I mean, the more we resist Target, the more white people are going to support Target. Just look at it that way. It doesn't matter, but they don't have to have our money to survive. We need our money to survive. Just reel it back in. Take one day, like I promoted forever. June 19th is our Juneteenth day, and don't buy gas at any Exxon, any Valero, or any other gas station for that matter. Just pick one commodity and don't support it for one day, for 24 damn hours. How hard is that? 24 hours. Just like the pastor out of Georgia said, Target, we're going to fast Target for 30 days. That's a start, but that is no cigar. You know, I mean, our people don't get nowhere by not spending money at Target. We get somewhere by pulling our money from an entire community, not just Target. All of them were created on equal levels, and they all survive and thrive off our money. And just because they don't advertise the DEI, or that we're not supporting, we're pulling our DEI program, they still don't support the DEI program. You see, every single corporation, you're going to see a white man at the head of it. Why? Out of thousands of organizations in America, why is there a white man running it? But you know, there's our few Mexicans, our few Chinese, our few uh, uh, Africans running these corporations, but very few Black Americans. And our culture, Black America, is the only culture on the planet today that don't have a national representation. We do not have a national representation. We really don't have a representation here in America. And until we start get a national representation, we're going to always be treated like DODO. And we're going to always get the shitty end of the stick. And why do we fuss about it? And why do we fight about it? Because we know it's wrong, but we can whine and bitch and complain about it all day long. But talking about boycotting Target ain't going to solve the damn problem. If we don't start to push this problem national and then to international, and we start to focus on a commodity as a culture until we can get the representation we need. They're talking about cutting Medicaid. They're talking about getting rid of the Department of Education. They're talking about all these things that we have grown to depend on. We're going to have to let it go and start becoming self-sufficient again. We were self-sufficient at one time, and we were doing so well at it. What did they do? They started to destroy every single village they could find. They started to destroy these villages or these communities. All these towns that you see on my screen right now were Black communities that were reaching the thriving mode. And they got tired of it. They really got, the white folks couldn't stand it. They couldn't stand to see us be the only people buying Cadillacs when the Great Depression hit and the Cadillac company started to fail. And they would have failed if Black people did not start buying Cadillacs. So these are the things that we don't want to remember. You have to remember all these communities used to be Black communities. But what did they do? Since they have the power and we don't have the unity, they eliminated us very easily. You know, we were talking about Lake Lanier earlier today, how they flooded this, the federal government flooded this entire valley of Black culture, Black township, which I don't remember the name of the town, but it's Lake Lanier in North Georgia right now, where they flooded this whole town. And they did not destroy the places. They just filled it with water. And so now that's why hundreds of people die in Lake Lanier today, because they feel like it's haunted. There was one lady said she went down in Lake Lanier and it felt like it was molasses trying to get back up. They had to pull her out and she was embarrassed because she was a lifeguard. So these things have happened, and there's not very much we're going to be able to do about it without having a basis to land on. We have a fragmented nationality, and it's that way because we have allowed it to stay that way. And there are too many of us not willing to correct our status in this country. And if we correct our status on a massive level, the federal government will recognize that we have changed who we are, and we're not who they classified us as. This is the Black News Network, the real voice of Black USA, broadcasting the news and information on a Black perspective or from a Black perspective. We don't own the rights to the music, and we do not own the rights to what we say. Now, if you have not purchased a copy of my book, I would highly recommend that you do. I don't have one to show you right now, but all I can tell you is leave the dirt in the cotton field. Leave it there. We are no longer out there chopping cotton. We're making money. We're making moves. We're making money moves. Let Cardi B say it. So thank you so much for watching us. We'll be back next Sunday at 3:30 p.m. and daylight saving time won't catch us off guard again. So we appreciate your viewing. Please leave a message or comment and support the Black News Network. For that, I am War Smith, your host, signing off, and thank you again for being a part of the Black News Network.